Joining me now is Caitlin Dickerson. She is a staff writer at The Atlantic. She's the author of the magazine's cover story for next month, titled "We Need to Take Away Children: The Secret History of the U.S. Government's Family Separation Policy." She spent the last 18 months investigating this story, conducting more than 150 interviews for the process, and has reviewed thousands of pages of government reports. Caitlin, congratulations on an important story. We know, we've talked to you for years, so we know how much you work on this. One of the things that comes out in this story is the degree to which this is Trump's policy and Trump's legacy, but it took lots of people in lots of departments both to implement it and to mess it up as much as you write about.
That's right. You know, I think as soon as the country really found out about zero tolerance, found out that hundreds of separations had happened in secret, and then they ramped up even more, and you had thousands of additional separations, you know, anger turned toward Stephen Miller, President Trump's chief immigration advisor, and toward Kirstjen Nielsen, who was the Homeland Security Secretary. But the reality is, you know, though those two figures were, of course, absolutely pivotal, you know, Stephen Miller pushed relentlessly for this to happen, and Kirstjen Nielsen ended up being pressured and pressured and pressured until she just eventually went along with it. But there were so many other people involved, and really importantly, people like Tom Homan, who was the head of ICE under President Trump, who'd served under presidents both Republican and Democrat. You know, he'd been in border enforcement for decades. He's supposed to be an apolitical career expert who understands this system, you know, who, unlike Stephen Miller, is not pushing for policies from an ideological place, but from a place of theoretically expertise. Same story with Kevin McAleenan, who was the head of Customs and Border Protection. Again, somebody that people really trusted to provide good information to the Homeland Security Secretary about what she would do. And instead, these individuals and their staffs assured the Homeland Security Secretary this is going to be fine. They said things like, we've done it before, which wasn't true, and that systems were in place to prevent these prolonged separations that you just mentioned. And of course, that wasn't true either. Stephen
Miller, by the way, you can see on TV or on streaming. He's all over the place these days. He's got a comment about everything. You write about him. People who know Miller says he believes that zero tolerance saved lives and that immigration enforcement was Trump's most popular accomplishment among his base. Miller has told them that the administration laid the groundwork necessary for a future president to implement harsh enforcement even more quickly and with greater reach than under Trump. If anyone is likely to lead another push for the American government to separate families, it's Stephen Miller. For a year and a half, I tried to reach him so I could ask him directly, among other things, why he had lobbied so forcefully for this to occur in the first place and whether he would do so again in the future. A close friend of Miller and his wife explained that ever since the couple became parents, they had been consumed by child care, ironically, and were hard to reach. Again, I'm going to put it out there. Stephen Miller, you're invited to come on the show, and I'll have Caitlin back, and we can have this discussion. Why is he so into this? What is his thing? He's been a sort of an anti-immigration guy for a while.
Right.
Why this?
Well, I think that for Miller, this is an ideological passion, if you will. You know, he cares a lot about the immigration system. He wants to, you know, limit immigration to the United States as much as he possibly can. Your viewers know that. But you have other people, importantly, again, not just Miller, but these career enforcement officials who advise the Trump administration, who still believe very strongly in what they see as the success of zero tolerance and generally this prevention by deterrence approach. You know, they believe very strongly in it. And so there is no question that these policies would come back. I mean, I can tell you, I did countless interviews, and there was nobody who said, you know, maybe we would take a different tack, or we would go a little bit softer, or we would try to work more with Congress. I mean, they are ready to hit the ground running.
Right. What about Kirstjen Nielsen? You talk about her as being somebody who seemed at times resistant to this. She was one of the most senior people who spoke out against this policy, but you say she became subsumed.
She did, and her story, I think, is important for us to understand, not to, you know, absolve anybody of responsibility. You know, she is the highest-ranking law enforcement official who signed off on this as DHS secretary. But again, she was at the center of this lobbying campaign. She had this immense pressure coming down onto her from the White House and from Miller, who was, you know, doing all kinds of things that are completely outside of the norm in our government, you know, barraging people throughout the agency with demands and arguments and just really doing as much as he could to just force people into agreeing with him. But then also below her, you know, members of the bureaucracy really turned on her because they, in many cases, saw an opportunity for their own career advancement if they sort of sidled up to what the White House was pushing for. And so what happened to her, it reflects a breakdown of these systems that exist that theoretically should prevent bad policies from ever reaching the desk of a cabinet secretary in the first place for a decision. You know, a policy where no planning had taken place should never be presented to somebody like Nielsen, but in this case it was.
What happens now? We still don't have, you and I have talked for years about the fact that there are real solutions to this. We actually have to deal with immigration in a real manner. You can't have nobody coming into America. We'd be short of workers. We already have that sort of situation. But we haven't got a solve in Congress, which means this is still going to fall into the hands of administrations and the executive branch to continue to try and work out.
That's right. And I know that we both sound a little bit like a broken record by saying, hey, Congress, you still haven't done anything. But I do think we show very clearly in this story that the absence of congressional action has left the Border Patrol to figure this out on their own, have left law enforcement officials to figure out what is humanitarian policy, what is economic policy, you know, what is international relations. All these things are left to a police force effectively that has one tool at its disposal, which is punishment. And that's why you continue to see the Border Patrol turning back again and again to these same approaches. They don't work. There's no evidence that they work. But when Congress doesn't intervene, it's basically, you know, they have no choice but to use the tools that they have, right?
A remarkable story. I'm glad you took the time and space, and the Atlantic took the time and space to tell this, because it sort of keeps falling off the radar, and yet it's not only solvable, it can be solved in a good way. Caitlin, thanks for keeping this front of mind for all of us. Caitlin Dickerson is a staff writer at The Atlantic.